Oh yeah, double chin. Boop, boop. The most original concept ever. Using reference, using the squint test. My name is Eric Canete. You're watching Redraw, and today I'm drawing Batman. Well, here you go. Seven videos in, and I'm presenting you with one of the most original concepts ever. Batman on a gargoyle. You're welcome. I'm going to put up the original image that I did way back in 2006, quick sketch that I did in my buddy's sketchbook, just so you guys have a point of reference of what the original looked like. I know that you can kind of see it as a ghost image as I'm painting along, but I figured it'd be worth taking a look at what it originally looked like way back when, and how ugly some of my line work was. Anyway, here we go. I'm asked now and again where I get the ideas for my environments. Am I using reference, or am I coming up with that out of my own head? And I think it's a little bit of both. I think if there's especially in a quick sketch or a quick paint like this, quick quote unquote for me, but in a quick paint like this, I have enough of these nuances, these little building I don't know what you call these building details in my mental Rolodex, that I can just sort of refer to those and apply them at least convincingly, if not accurately or correctly. But there is something to be said, and I'm gonna guess that after the fact, as I was struggling with that gargoyle and understanding its design, I'm gonna guess it would have gone a whole lot quicker if I had just gone into the mighty world of the internet and just Googled a gargoyle head and kind of painted and used that as a reference and painted from there. But I'm not adverse to using reference. I'm just saying, when I'm just trying to get drawings done, or when I'm winding down for the evening and doing something like this, I'd rather, actually I can't be bothered to look up reference, but I look up reference when it's absolutely necessary, not so much for a painting like this. I knew based on the original drawing, at least based on what I could recollect of what my intention was for that original drawing, I knew that for this painting, lighting was going to be pretty critical. And you can tell me sort of laying down the foundations of where that light source is going to be just on the gargoyle head itself. And that's why I think I was so meticulous about trying to understand where the light would be striking the planes of this gargoyle's, the gargoyle structure. This was a whole lot easier, if you think about it, for the gargoyle, because it's effectively just a box, right? 4 sides, underside, left and right, and the top part, and getting that to work and making that look convincing, I think was an easy enough task. It's everything else hereafter from, and you'll get to see this later, from Joker and Batman, and ultimately the shadow that Batman is going to cast on the what would you say, the building, the structure, the cathedral behind him. That's where really the lighting gets a little bit more tricky, and I start using a little bit more creative liberty. The question I ask myself often is, how much reference should I use, and how much do I make it look as accurate as possible? And if it's not very obvious by now, I rarely use reference, and I try to get somewhere in the realm of believable and convincing, but not necessarily accurate. I think I have enough sort of these little snippets of what makes for convincing architecture bouncing around in my head based on my experience as an environment designer in animation, that I can kind of come up with, like I said, something that's pretty convincing. But accuracy, I would have to actually go out and look for reference, and I just didn't have time for that, or at least I didn't have the motivation to with this painting. I suspect there are some educators listening to this video and my commentary and just losing your minds over the idea that I said I don't use reference. I'm not saying I don't. I'm saying that I didn't do it for this image, so calm down and put away the torches and the pitchforks. I do use reference. Just not right now. Calm down, man. Yeesh. If you scrub back a few seconds, you could see that I opted to go away from the original pose that Batman was in the original drawing, which was sort of squatted right on top of the Joker. I just realized as I was doing it that once it came time to render this thing, especially because of the dramatic light source, legibility would just go out the window. So instead I opted for him sort of holding him up by his shirt and leaning him over the edge of the gargoyle there. And I think by the end, in my opinion only, I think by the end it ends up paying off. Before I forget, and if you would be so kind, and if you've made it this far, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you will get a notice when my new videos come up. One of the challenges that I was running into when I was thinking about opening a YouTube channel is that what's out there right now, or what isn't out there right now that I could offer that other artists aren't already sort of graciously handing over for free? And the answer is nothing. I mean, I don't know between YouTube and all the other artist resources where they can release their own videos and tutorials. I don't know if there's anything out there that hasn't been covered already in one way, shape, or form, but I figured if I talk about my experiences anecdotally, or sort of my challenges and all the hurdles that I have to cross whenever I'm trying to get better at my craft, my hope is that as a listener, a new artist trying to get better at craft, there's something in there that you can take away and apply into your own sort of pipeline and body of work. Now, whether or not that's actually going to happen remains to be seen. If you have, it would be great for my neurosis and partially for my ego. If you could leave that in the comments section below, that would be really awesome. That would do a great deal of good for my nervousness in regards to whether or not it was worth starting this YouTube channel. Thanks ahead of time. Another reason to start up the YouTube channel is purely selfish, which is to say that I want to be able to look back, especially now that I have it recorded and saving locally onto my desktop here. I want to be able to look back at some of these videos and try to recall, as my memory starts to fail, try to recall what my process was. I think that's a curse that I've had historically, is that I can run into something that is, at least for me, pretty profound and revolutionary when it comes to how to render, and then if I don't do it for a while, I run into sort of this weird memory hole where I can't remember that I actually did that in the past. So I'll go and do it again and do the same thing over and over again and get stuck in this weird craft leveling up time hole, you know? So yeah, being able to refer back to some of these videos and go, oh, right, that's how I did that. I don't know, that's how I did that lighting, that's how I did that rendering on concrete or steel or whatever. I think that's pretty useful for an addled brain like mine. Welcome to my addled brain. I know there's some of you out there who already do this, and it's super helpful. It's called the squint test, so bear with me as I try to clumsily explain what it is for those who don't. I have a process in by which when I'm rendering something, especially at this stage in a value painting, where I squint at the image and I see whether or not I have legibility issues, right? If you think about the building independent of Batman and Joker on the gargoyle, doing the squint test there makes a whole lot of sense. It actually came together pretty nicely in my opinion. And then if you take a look at Batman and Joker on this gargoyle independent of the background, do the squint test there, kind of works. Probably could use a little bit more work on the contrast end, but the challenge is putting it all together and having it read as a whole, right? And I think that's where I ran into a small little kind of challenge when I combined both of those elements, background and Joker and Batman on the gargoyle, where I had to do a little bit more heavy lifting in regards to separating those two elements and making sure that legibility is still at the top of my list. I think one of my issues is that I don't really have an official step-by-step in by which I do these types of exercises, these types of paintings. I don't go like, okay, start broadly first and then whittle it down to detail, and then whittle that down to even more finer detail, and finally pull it all together with whatever final steps that you need in order to call it done. I don't know, I get caught up in that. I think that would be fun to render right now. I think I have an idea of how to render that armor, or the fabric on that cape, or the concrete on that building. That just helps the train go off the rails so much faster. I think if I come up with an official process, it would be so much easier to sort of tick off boxes to make sure that I accomplish those things. But as for now, I'm just having a lot of fun, and I hope that comes through in the final image. One of the great things about working in digital is the fact that I can always just go back and adjust it. It's also one of the dangers is that you can get hung up in adjusting and readjusting and not knowing when it's done. But I think that's one of the saving graces of digital and not having a process, is that I'm able to just experiment and play away. You'll be able to see this during the near the end of this video, that I start adjusting the perspective of the structure in the back, the architecture in the back, that it doesn't quite match how everything else lands. So I'm able to cut and paste and adjust that and morph it, and as well as some of the details on the gargoyle itself, I also adjust it so that it helps land the perspective a little bit better. The other thing is that I'll start adjusting the contrast near Batman and Joker's faces. That's where I want your attention to go. So that's where it's going to be the most quote-unquote contrasty. That's my term. Trademark, copyright. I'm sure I'm going to put this image through another round of noodling and refinement, but for now, we're going to call it done. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Leave a comment in the comments area below, and I will see you next time. Bye.